What's up, everyone? Thank you so much for clicking on the video. My name is Lou, and first and foremost, Happy New Year. We made it to 2026. It's the year of the horse, so hopefully a lot of change happening for you, for me, for everybody in general. Just Happy New Year. Today's video, we're going to talk about a power I feel is really become popular, at least in the last year or so, especially I want to say the last 5 to 6 months, and that's going to be explosion manipulation. Whether it's characters like Rize from Chainsaw Man, Bakugo from My Hero, or even Killer Queen from, JoJo's. This power is very explosive. Sorry, I just wanted to be a little corny today, so there you go. That's my one for this video, maybe. Anyway, in today's video, we'll discuss how it works, some of the known applications, its limitations, and we'll also get into the overall scores and the best and worst users. So with all that said, let's stop kicking the tires and dive right into the video. What is explosion manipulation? It's the ability to create, shape, control, move, interact with explosions. This allows the user to create small, localized explosions, larger explosions. In fact, there are different levels. At the low end, you have maybe a firecracker or maybe something that can blow up a small lock. That's called low-level explosions. Mid-level explosions are things that can blow up cars and maybe even small buildings. On the higher end, you have multiple buildings or skyscrapers, thinking like your nukes. And of course, the final, which is cosmic. This is your gamma ray bursts. This is your supernovas. And of course, your big bangs. These are the most dangerous versions of explosions. Okay, so let's talk about some of the known applications when it comes to explosion manipulation. One of the most interesting, and I'm pretty sure the most popular aspect, is it gives you access to fragokinetic flight. If you watch My Hero and you're a fan of Bakugo like I am, you know what that means. It basically means you can use your explosions to propel you through the air. Now, depending on the power, you can go pretty fast, or it can just be like, if you play like Smash Bros, like that little stop they do. I'm not a really big gamer, but you know what I mean. You get it. Something else that's pretty interesting is that you have the ability to sense explosions or explosive material around you. Say, for instance, you're walking in a landmine. You know where the explosions are or know where the triggers are, in a sense, and you can avoid them. Additionally, with that, you also have the ability to negate or absorb explosions. This allows you as a user to essentially be a bomb human or immune to explosions. That doesn't seem as impressive for most people, I guess, especially because, we got people who can throw out energy blast and people who can lift up cars. You get it. But with this ability and be able to absorb like nukes or hydrogen bombs or just warheads and just be able to negate that ability or negate the explosion is pretty impressive on the high end, especially when it comes to saving people or mitigating damage. Another application I would like to discuss is the fact you can chain detonations. This allows you to create a series of smaller explosions to chain together and cause a bigger eruption. I can't think of a character off the top of my head. Maybe Killer Queen has this ability. I read a little bit on him, and he actually does have this ability where he can basically send out mini bombs and cause significant damage over a period of time. If I'm wrong, please quote me, my JoJo's fans. I know you guys are always in the comment section ready to do that. All right, the last application I really want to bring up is the fact you have access to explosive combat as well as infusion. Now, with the combat, you can infuse your blows or your strikes with explosions. You can think like Bakugo again, or even Rize from the Chainsaw Man series, where they can infuse their attacks or they can infuse their blows or their fists or anything like that with explosive properties. This can be a punch, this can be a kick, this can be a headbutt. I mean, hell, it can even be a bite, which is really crazy if you think about it. Now, infusion allows you to infuse explosive energy into objects. Take, for instance, this pen. You can think of a character like Rexplode or even Gambit, even though theirs kind of work a little differently because theirs work more or less on the kinetic energy or potential energy. No, it's kinetic energy they can use to manipulate. But with explosive manipulation, you can do something similar where you can charge something up with explosive energy and throw it or just release it and it immediately explodes. You can even think about characters like Killer Queen or Mr. Five from One Piece, who have the ability to touch and cause explosions, or even using things like their breath or spit or snot. They can use that as a projectile and it can become explosive. Something I think is really, really cool is the fact you can actually infuse your explosions into weaponry. You can think your bullets, of course, all that stuff. But we're thinking like melee weapons, swords, staffs, nunchucks, even like sais, I'm just on a really big Ninja Turtle kick. I don't know why I named all their weapons, but you get what I'm saying. You can essentially turn any weapon into a dangerous or more dangerous weapon by infusing it with explosive charge, which I think is just crazy. Could you imagine like charging up this Luffy or charging up this light or anything and just throwing it at somebody and it causing like a huge explosion? Just absolutely insane. I just think it's like a crazy power to have, to be honest. Okay, so with most powers, especially powers that stick to more of the destructive side, you got to talk about the limitations. And we're going to talk about that right now. And I think the biggest one you have to consider when it comes to explosion manipulation or any type of power like this is you got to have control, you got to have forethought, and you got to realize this is an incredibly dangerous power. I know I'm saying that and people are like, oh yeah, we know it's explosions and bombs and stuff like that. No. Powers like this can be tied to your emotions, meaning if you get mad in traffic, you can either turn your car into a bomb or maybe just blow a hole into anything. Like, this is so intrinsically tied to who you are as a person that it's incredibly dangerous and it can be a limitation of your everyday life. Could you imagine stubbing your toe or, cutting yourself shaving or whatever else that makes you mad and just instantly just losing it and causing massive destruction around you? Which leads us to our next point. With this power, you have to think of the area you're in. If you blow up something and let's say it's on a building and you just completely mess up the structure, you can cause a collapse. It causes more destruction, which if you're a psychopath, that probably doesn't seem like a big deal, but you're standing on that building. And if you don't know how to fly with this power, you're going to end up dead or severely hurt. So you have to be mindful of how you use this power, the area you're using it in. It's not just like, I'm a bomb man, I can just take everybody out. You have to be smart about this. All right, so next thing I want to talk about is with this ability, you have to be aware of the fact that distance, mass, precision, all those are huge with this power. Any type of manipulation power that goes away from your body or extends out of your body, even like something like blood manipulation, it takes you having a very high knowledge of how your powers work and how far you can go. You would have to test this ability out quite a bit. And depending on the distance or depending on like your level of strength of this power, you couldn't go very far. Some manipulators of explosions only have like maybe just a general, decent area around them. Like I stated before, most explosion manipulators have limitations as like they can only use their powers with touch, or they can only infuse inorganic things, or the fact that their bombs can only go so far, like they're into their reach, or maybe they can't explode something maybe a mile away with just their thoughts. It's pretty much that you're kind of locked into your immediate area. So you really have to consider what you're doing and how you can really use this power. But I digress. All right, last limitation I want to get into is the fact that with this ability, you could still be affected by your explosions. It's not in the fact that you're just completely immune to explosions. Like anything that you cause to explode, you might feel the after effects. Maybe the shock waves, maybe the recoil of the blast from your hands, the radiation, maybe even the cosmic level stuff like a gamma ray burst or a supernova. You're not immune to that stuff. Anything that can affect a human explosive wise can affect you. But then again, with most powers, it just comes down to your level of control and I guess your level of power, because not all telepaths are created equal. Not all blood manipulators are created equal. And of course, not all explosion manipulators are created equal. All right, 3 things you really have to consider. Now, if you have access to nuclear level explosions, you have to consider the things that follow nuclear blasts. We're talking fallout, toxic waste, radiation, increased radioactivity. It will not be a good day for you or anybody around you if you have I can't remember the character's name. His name's Ted. He's from Heroes. He was known as a radioactive man. Anytime he blew up, he caused a severe spike in radiation. If you have the ability to manipulate nuclear energy or nuclear explosions, you're not just affecting yourself. You're affecting more people in entire ecosystems. Now, if you think that's bad, with cosmic level explosions, it can be even worse, considering that, cosmic meaning you can cause another Big Bang and wipe out your entire universe, which to be fair, really isn't a good selling point for me. But if you're into that stuff, be my guest. But for now, let's just get into our scores. All right, so let's start the category off with versatility. Now, versatility in this power, there's very limited characters I've seen that really are very versatile with explosion manipulation. It's very destructive, but I don't feel like it has much in versatility. But because we have characters like Rize, Bakugo, even Bambietta, who've used it pretty cleverly, I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 10, but that's just me. Next up, let's get into creativity. Now, creativity is gonna be a little bit more because I feel like as a My Hero fan and a fan of Rize in the Chainsaw Man universe, I just seen those characters do really, really cool things. And even Killer Queen, I've read that he can like make small bombs in your bloodstream and, you know, take out blood clots, which I think is super clever. So for me, it's probably gonna get a 5 out of 10. Yeah, 5 out of 10. I feel like that's fair. Next up, we got destructive capacity. And this is no surprise. It's gonna get a 10 out of 10 for destructive capacity. This is a purely offensive ability. You can't go wrong with the power to blow stuff up. So I can't see it getting a 9. I feel like especially if you can go high level explosions or even mid level explosions, this is a pretty potent ability. So yes, it's gonna get a 10 out of 10 for destructive capacity. Next up, we got combat potential, and this is my favorite category, and it's gonna get another 10 out of 10. Look, man, if you haven't seen the Chainsaw Man movie, or you haven't seen the ending of My Hero, or you haven't even watched My Hero, or Bleach, or Naruto, One Piece, everybody with this power, they make it look so dope. And especially Rize and Bakugo, because, dude, Bakugo's whole style is just so cool. It was so cool, the main character had to copy it in a way. I'm gonna say it's gonna get a 10 out of 10. I know I'm babbling, but combat potential for me is gonna get a 10 out of 10. All right, so last category I wanna discuss is gonna be daily use. Now, this is purely based on my opinion. I don't expect everybody to share this opinion with me, mostly because I don't think everybody's a psycho. At least I hope nobody's a psycho out there and you want this to just do whatever. But, you know, maybe you were more clever than I am and come up with some very cool and helpful ways of using it. But I'm babbling again. Let's just dive into what I think the score is. For me, it's going to get another 3 out of 10. I can understand if people want to use it the way Bakugo uses it, or if you have ops out there, people you just want to take out. I mean, that's crazy, but I get it, I guess. But for me, it's just going to get a 3 out of 10. So this brings us to a score of 31 out of 50. So this is pretty low. I think this might be our lowest. I don't really know for certain. I think Becca can tell us somewhere on the screen. But yeah, so this is a D class ability. Not hating on this power. If you love it, please let me know in the comment section what makes it great. But for me personally, I don't see it getting any higher than D tier. Now we're getting to my favorite part of the video, which is the best and worst users of explosion manipulation. Now, keep in mind, these are purely based on my opinions. This is nothing against anybody. If you feel differently, like I stated before, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. But with all that out of the way, let's just talk about it. So first of all, this has been one of the hardest, best and worst to do I've ever had, because there are so many good users of this ability. It's hard to pick which one is the best. But I'm gonna start best first. And for me, I'm gonna say the best user is Katsuki Bakugo, or Great Explosion Murder God Dynamite.
Child, so long.
Big yikes.
How crude. Lame.
That's an awesome hero name. It's super funny.
Why? I know you have characters like Rize, you have Bambietta, you have Mr. Five, you have Killer Queen. They all have great power. They all do so much. But the thing that sets them apart, or sets Bakugo apart from the rest of them, is the fact that Bakugo's only power is explosions. Rize is a devil. She has regenerative abilities. She has super strength. That should immediately count her out. Bambietta is a Quincy. She has spiritual powers. That's not fair at all. You got Killer Queen, who's a Stan, who's an ethereal being. And granted, it can do a lot of crazy things, but it's still got extra powers. For me, the best user is specifically only has a power of explosion manipulation, or to utilize explosions. You can't have any extra powers. And I know somebody's gonna be like, well, Bakugo is really fast and strong, but that's all based on his training. He earned that. So for me, yes, Bakugo is the best user of explosion manipulation. Now for the worst. This one was tough too, mostly because the person I picked because it's really not his fault, but the worst user, in my humble opinion, is gonna be Mr. Five, or Jim from One Piece. I only say that because we didn't get really to see him do a lot, and he's probably one of the best users we actually do have on, like, in fiction, because he can utilize explosions in his spit, his snot, any kind of bodily function he wants, like his breath or even his piss, let's be fair, which is all great. But the fact is, he never did anything with this. I feel that he's kind of like wasted opportunity by Oda or just One Piece in general. If you feel differently, you feel like there's somebody worse, please let me know. But for me, yes, Mr. Five is the worst explosion manipulator that I know of. But those are just my opinions on the best and worst users of explosion manipulation. If you feel differently, please let me know in the comment section and leave a like if you can. We're really trying to grow the channel, and I really appreciate everyone showing up and showing out here lately, especially on the shorts. Fantastic job, everyone. And yeah, thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And yeah, let's kick 2026's ass. Peace.